The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Geeks, Geezers, and Googlization Show, the home of Googlization Nation, where we talk with HR and business thought leaders about the crazy shift going on in the world of business, technology, and HR. Here's your host, Ira Wolf, and co-host Keith Campagna.
Hey, welcome back, Googlization Nation, and happy December. This is the 47th episode of Geeks, Geezers, and Googlization this year. We talked to a ton of people. It's been an amazing year. I was looking for a word that basically describes the guest we've had. Keith, maybe you can help me on this. And, interesting is certainly an understatement. Provocative, intriguing, controversial, informative. I don't know which one of those fits, but I don't know. What do you think, Keith?
I think a little bit of all of it. Really fun conversions. Really
yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, that's another one. Hey, so while we're trying to figure that out, we really want to thank all the listeners too. We've got a growing base. Each week, I don't know about you, Keith, but I get, not only do we have more activity on LinkedIn and Twitter, but I get more comments. I get messages from people and more connections of how they're enjoying the show. So we really appreciate that, both to the guests and everybody that's listening and for spreading the word. If you're listening live, you can chat with us on W4CY.com. Just go up there. You can also call us at 561-623-9429 if you have any questions. If you're basically listening on a podcast, just leave a review or go up to Keith or my LinkedIn or Twitter feeds and let us know what you're thinking, what you liked. Let us know what's your favorite show. What did you hear? And today, you might want to wait and hold on before you do that because we've got a great topic and a great guest today. We got Benjy Gillman from MyInterview. He's calling all the way from Israel. I think this is our previous global guest was Spain, so now we've got Israel. Can't get much further than that, other than Australia, which is Benjy's homeland. So he'll be joining us shortly.
Hold on a sec. Who was the woman? Didn't you do a Disrupt HR? Like a virtual Disrupt HR?
Yeah. You're right. Yeah, we did that. That was in
Czech
Belgrade.
Republic,
yeah, Belgrade. Yeah, Belgrade. Yeah, so that might be equal. I'm not sure. I'd have to track the distance. But yeah, we've had that, and then we had Jeff Gotthelf. Remember, he called in from, he's a U.S. citizen, but he lives in Spain. So,
nice.
At the time.
Right.
So, yeah, we're
And Italy, we had Italy too, with, I can't think of her name, but that was a fun one as well.
Yeah. So it's amazing. Yeah, absolutely. So before we get to Benjy, there's a big shout out. I want to thank all our listeners who completed the Kind quiz. For those who didn't listen to last week's show or didn't see the dozens of social media posts we put out there. The Kind quiz is a 5-minute quiz. It helps identify your social impact profile. As you probably heard or read, or if you didn't, I'm going to let you know. I came across as generous. Keith, I think you were discerning.
Discerning and compassionate.
Yeah, and I was generous and experimental, so definitely complimentary here on what we're doing. But what's exciting is, based on the results, Aaron Michelson, who was CEO and founder of Summary, that's Summary with an E, they're making a data-driven donation to a nonprofit. Based on the collective profile of all the listeners who completed it from Geeks, Geezers, Googlization. So I didn't get the results yet. I tried to get in contact with Aaron. So, hey, Aaron, I don't know if you're listening today, but if you are, call us at 561-623-9429. Let us know where the donation's going to. It's not even the amount, it's just the gesture as well. Otherwise, watch for the announcement on LinkedIn and Twitter, but we're really excited. For anybody who still wants to get that profile, go to the Kind Quiz, that's KINDQUIZ, thekindquiz.com/GGG. Make sure you do that because that'll keep track of where everybody is.
And you know what's
interesting? Say something.
We kept doing it last time too with Aaron on the show, but it's Summary as in SUMMERY. I wondered if somebody was going to write SUMMARE based off of the way we said it.
Yeah.
But it's fantastic software for those HR leaders out there that are trying to figure out ways to assess and move forward with your employees in many different ways. It is a really slick software.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about taking, there's so much buzz about culture. We're trying to find people who whether it's diversity or inclusion, or just we want people with a similar mindset, or we want people who are engaged. And so far, it really has been a lot of guesswork. I mean, nothing against all the surveys and all the work that OD people do, and a lot of consulting companies that do great work, but it's still a bunch of guesswork. And, you're in the ROI business these days.
Yeah.
And, talking about how you can measure the investment, not only of the technology, but of the outcomes. And that's really what Aaron's company was doing. That's what Summary's trying to do, is through AI, is identify, people that are not only on paper a good match, but, functionally a good match and functionally engaged. So that's exciting.
Yeah, and it's interesting you mentioned, the history of HR as it relates to this challenge. I find it somewhat interesting to see how there's all this new technology, and a lot of the what I'll call the older consultants that are pretty set in their ways, and they just essentially go through they've gotten to a point in their career where they might not feel like they need to make changes. And we've had a couple conversations with you get the sense where there's a progressive mindset versus a, kind of set in their ways
mindset versus a fixed mindset. Yeah.
Right.
I talk about that a lot.
It's amazing. I think technology is such a game changer. I know that's a silly thing to say, but I think when you look at the old school versus the new school, I really think that anyone who sits around in that old school too long is going to be, they're going to wake up one day.
The old school's got to close. Yeah, which I think Brianna Shilko. Do you know? Yeah. So I had my interview with her Monday. It was. And her new podcast is called Not So Millennial Podcast. And I'll tell you, for a 25-year-old, it's, I'm not sure if we've got it wrong about not we, but because I think we have a different viewpoint on millennials, but so many people have it wrong. But you've got to listen to her interview, because her interview with me, or my interview with her, but of what her background is, and she certainly doesn't fit the stereotype. And I said, but after the call, I said, I'm not sure. She's not so millennial, and I'm not so baby boomer. So,
right.
But there's definitely a lot of old school, new school stuff out there. So, hey, before you and I keep talking, I've been harping on both of us, on how bad the candidate experience is. Mm-hmm. Just read another outrageous stat this week from PwC Pricewaterhouse that 49% of job offers that are rejected are the result of a bad candidate experience. And then you sort of add the 50% of people who never even apply because of a horrible web career site, or they can't complete the application, and it's just bad, and companies need to reboot. But on top of that, we also know that the interview is really just the traditional interview. I'm not talking about people who have studied this and recruiters that are pretty polished, or hiring managers. But as a rule, the interview's been terribly unreliable, and that's backed by stats. Anybody who wants to challenge us can go up and the research has just proven that it's just a whole lot. Most interviews aren't better than flipping a coin, because candidates rehearse, managers are rushed, they don't have time to prepare, and in fact they're prone to a lot of bias. So today we've got a guest who's hoping his technology is going to reboot the way we recruit, screen, and hire people. Benjy Gillman is founder of MyInterview. He's combined video interviewing, which has been around for a couple years, but he's combined video interviewing with AI. And it's a pretty amazing story. So like every other HR technology, in addition to disrupting and improving our performance and our ability to get the right people in the right, in the right seat on the right bus, there's a lot of questions about privacy too when we start talking about AI and natural language processing and facial recognition. So excited to talk about how video, and especially video interviewing, is disrupting the workplace. But we'll be talking about that, and if it goes too far, and therefore, got to bring on Benjy. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ira. Thank you, Keith. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
All the way from Tel Aviv. So
that's it.
Yeah, early evening for you guys, early afternoon for us. So Benjy, I looked at a couple of videos and interviews that you had done, and you've got the story of how you got to MyInterview. It's pretty amazing. So why don't you kind of bring everybody up to speed of that? Because I think, isn't your partner, was this an idea you had in high school, or your partner's from high school, right?
That's correct. Yeah. My partner and I were together in high school, and we were applying for jobs ourselves. And as you are in high school, you don't have much of a resume. It's just the fact that you've been able to wake up every morning and go to that school, which is your only real skill or experience. And it's very hard for employers to get an insight when you're looking for your first job into who you really are. So that was the foundation that we built MyInterview on, is that candidates and anyone should have the ability to be able to display who they are and get those critical soft skills across when they apply for jobs, that everyone has that equal opportunity to put their foot in the door.
So based on that, the traditional process is you go up to a job board, you submit a resume or fill out an application. When did the idea of using video, is that what you did? Did you submit videos to get some of those early jobs, or what was the evolution of your thought process?
Absolutely. So we started creating little videos that we would shoot out with our resumes. And that was really giving us a competitive advantage when we were applying for those jobs. So we decided that that there's something in this, and that this is where the world is going. So we created MyInterview to really to cut through that and to change the process. So you're not just submitting a resume; you can also have the ability to submit a short video. So we've been doing this for around 6 years now. But the product that we've got live has really been the last 3 years that we've had something that's really cut through the market, and especially some of the innovations around the insights that we can get from the interviews, which even the playing field a little bit more as well.
So you came up with the idea 6 years ago, which is a lifetime. I mean, it's a generation or two of what it used to be.
Yes.
What changed? I mean, what there's, when you go back to, one of the stories I share with people say, like something like Uber or Lyft is a new concept. And the reality is it's not a new concept. What changed was that we had smartphones and apps and
Exactly.
bandwidth, and, it's all those things finally caught up. So if you rolled back the clock 6 years, what changed to make this technology today what it is?
Everything.
Okay, that's fair.
So like accessibility to create videos is huge. Like we now have almost unlimited data plans on our mobile phones. So this wasn't the case back 6 years ago. Also the recording and streaming technologies, it was a different game. I mean, now when we see Flash pop up on our desktops or on our browsers, we get the shivers.
I just had that the other day, so I couldn't download something because it said I had a load of Flash, and I was like, okay, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, exactly. So who's gonna spend time downloading something to apply for a job? I mean, it's ridiculous. So this has really been a big shift that's enabled video technology to really come to the forefront of the recruitment process.
So so you're working globally. And, there's a couple things. I mean, we'll get into the legal stuff and the privacy stuff later. Have you seen a different level of adaptation? Again, U.S., North America, Western Europe, where are you seeing the biggest adaptation for what you're doing?
I'd say Look, we've got customers in I don't know 20 different countries. We've got around 600 customers using the process. We've done 300,000 video interviews have been through the solution. So I couldn't say that one region performs more than the other. But what we have seen over time is the candidate conversion rates improve. And I think that's due to a number of things. External factors such as, people are more comfortable with video and the notion of video and have used video, whether it's in their recruitment sphere, where it's in their personal lives, social media, etc. But we've also had the privilege of being around for a couple of years now. So we've been able to collect a lot of data of, what emails or SMSs do people interact with and engage more that will likely convert them to do a video interview? What interface works the best for people to have the best experience that they'll complete the interview? How should the questions be displayed? Should it be an app or should it be mobile native? All of these kind of elements we've tracked so that we could create an experience which is going to get us higher conversion rates than would have been achieved from just having a off-the-shelf video solution and just pulling up your camera and completing an interview.
Benjy, is there anything with all that data, was there anything that surprised you? Because you have such a wide line of sight here, pardon the pun.
Yes.
Anything surprise you?
So what we always get asked is, this is great for grad roles, or this is great for, millennials, or, but we really see a high conversion rate with within the more mature demographics as well. It's really not exclusive to the younger generation. And that's one of the biggest things that we've seen, the amount of middle management roles that come through using our software, I would say is almost equal to the graduate roles that come through. So that is interesting.
Yeah.
Have you seen, similar to that, again, you got 300,000 interviews and 600 companies that you're working with. Have you seen are candidates adapting this? Are they more willing than the companies, or do you find the companies are out there too? Because I don't know if you saw it this morning, Benjy. This morning or this afternoon. I posted a question up on LinkedIn. I was looking for what some of the 2020 trends are. Certainly, video in general is certainly part of that. But by a few of the responses, I sense that HR technology sees a different set of trends than, or I won't say a different set of trends. Technology is adapting to the trends much faster than a lot of the companies. So when I'm looking for trends, I'm looking to say, what are companies willing to adapt to versus what's available out there? So by the same question, that's why I'm sort of asking it. Do you see a wider adaptation by candidates over the companies, or you don't know?
It's an interesting question. And I'd almost answer it by saying it's a two-way street. So candidates aren't going to complete interviews if they're not seeing who the companies are they're applying for. They're not getting a good brand awareness for those companies. So we very much recommend that companies do videos if they're going to ask a candidate to do videos, so that it's a two-way street and it's a bit conversational. We've also really seen that these interviews should be short. So the majority of our interviews completed on our platform, it's 80%, are completed in under 5 minutes. So this isn't a long process, and we've really designed it to be that way because there's a number of reasons. Candidates don't want to be sitting and completing applications on whatever it is, psychometric testing, video interviewing, long forms in ATS for 20 minutes, half an hour, when they don't really have much investment in the company or position yet. And that's true on the other side as well. I mean, employers aren't going to sit down and watch half an hour worth of video if they can tell in the first few minutes that the candidate's not a good fit for the company. So let's not waste time on either side, and let's have something that's mutually beneficial for both parties.
So with that being said, do you see, I know you and I have talked in the past, so I know your product has a place essentially anywhere, but are you seeing a certain industry catch on to the advantage of having MyInterview and video interviewing as you guys provide it?
So I'd say the spectrum is pretty broad. And where this technology really sits is in high demand roles. So I wouldn't say it's industry exclusive. I'd say it's high demand. So roles which get a lot of applications for their positions, where you have a lot of choice as an employer to be able to choose who you are going to be hiring, and not so much roles where you're going headhunting or you're getting one or two applications. Because those involve a little more work on the other side.
Yeah, yeah.
So going back to the interview, so you said a couple things here. I keep writing down questions. We'll never covering them all. So you said initially. So in order to, you have a lot of research. You have this 300,000 people. What were some of the findings you had? What did you learn? How are people even knowing that they can submit a video resume? I think you mentioned you looked at text or email. What are some of the findings you found from your research?
So number one, a text is much better than an email. That's for sure. Yep. Emails it's becoming very noisy in the email sense, and people's text messages are becoming lighter and lighter. So a text message really cuts through in terms of getting conversions that way and reaching out to candidates. We actually initially designed MyInterview as a widget, which means that it was essentially like a button, like on PayPal, where you can there's a PayPal button that you can click to check out on any online environment. So we created this button that's now integrated in a number of different job boards. So if there's a job board partner who uses MyInterview, it might actually even be white labeled. But essentially a candidate can apply with video when they submit their CVs. So this is an element of the product that we've got, which allows candidates to have that ability to complete the interviews. We've also tried to make MyInterview as accessible as possible. We really believe that everyone should have the opportunity to have this ability to introduce themselves to employers. So for businesses, we've actually got a free forever account that they can go and they can use to invite candidates. And we're busy building a candidate engine inside of things that candidates can come on and create their own video portfolios, which they can design and they can share themselves. So we're trying to make it as accessible as possible to all parties.
So if I'm an employer and I'm intrigued and I want to do this, and I've been harping, Keith certainly knows this, but part of my message is you've got to take the standard application screening process down to 4 or 5 basic questions, which fits perfectly into this. How do I are the questions pre-recorded for me? I mean, I assume these interviews aren't necessarily free-forming, or are they? Maybe that's the first question. Do I just go up and introduce myself, or are these more structured that I'm introducing myself but answering 4 or 5 questions?
So this is quite cool. So number one, it's structured, so that there's definitely question answers. We're not going to put someone in a position where they just have to speak to a camera for 2 minutes. That's very difficult. It's proper, and this is the right environment where people should be guided by questions. So the current product, which you can use for free, you can go and you can choose one of our templates. You can create your own templates of structured questions that you feel are suitable for particular roles. Something that we've got in beta, which is interesting, and this is touching on the machine learning, is interactive interviews. So a candidate is shown a question, and then based on the answer to that question, they are presented with this follow-up question. So, and that follow-up question is drawing more information out of the candidate based on the first question. So it becomes conversational in the delivery of question and answers. And that's based on, almost like a chatbot would work. When you typing a response in a chatbot and the chatbot replies. So we're doing the same thing through video and the live transcription technology, which we've developed, so that so we can get the most information out of the candidates and enable them to really shine throughout the interviews.
Well, as you're saying that, I can see a lineup of hiring managers who hate interviewing, saying, "Oh, good, I can automate this. I can have a robot do it, and then just watch it." So again, another step. I won't say it's in the right direction, but it's certainly a hopefully progress. You are listening to the Geeks, Geezers, and Googlization show. We've got our guest, founder of MyInterview. We got Benjy Gillman, all the way from Tel Aviv, Israel. We're talking about video interviewing and how AI and machine learning is impacting it, and how we're looking at new technologies, another disruption in the world of HR. We're going to take a short break. We're going to hear from our sponsors, Zor.ai and Success Performance Solutions. So stay right where you are. We'll be right back in 2 minutes.
Imagine how your company would grow if your candidate experience earned a 99% approval rating. Well, to get to 99%, you need the 3 best letters in recruitment technology, XOR. Zor's text bots, chat bots, and audio bots increased IKEA's candidate conversion rate 455%. Zor decreases candidate drop-off rates, improves your candidate experience, and collects analytics for future strategies. To learn more, check out Zor.ai. That's XOR.ai.
Hi everyone, this is Ira Wolf, author of Recruiting and the Age of Googlization. I'm excited to announce that my online course, Recruitment Marketing for the Accidental Recruiter, is open for business. This course is the culmination of a 2-year-long project and releases recruiting tips I've learned after hundreds of hours of research, speaking with thousands of conference attendees, and interviews with dozens of experts. It's all available to you in Recruitment Marketing for the Accidental Recruiter. To receive more information or get started, visit our website at www.successperformancesolutions.com and click on the tab, Recruitment Marketing for the Accidental Recruiter. Hey, welcome back, everyone, and Googlization Nation, to the Geeks, Geezers, and Googlization show. I'm your host, Ira Wolf, and I'm with Keith Campagna, and our guest today is Benjy Gillman from MyInterview. Benjy's calling in from Tel Aviv, Israel. So, and we've been talking about video interviewing and AI, and we're going to get into some of that. Keith, anything top of mind on your end? I've got a whole bunch of questions here.
Thanks. I'm thinking that there's so much going on with this, right? I think we kind of were easy on Benjy at the beginning here, because we all know that there's a lot of conversations out there about bias in the recruitment process, biases taking place in the workplace. So it's really interesting to see how such an idea could be a phenomenal tool for those that are in the trenches in the recruitment and talent acquisition world, for candidates that are trying to, get their names out in front of recruiters. To be candid, I don't know what's harder anymore, for a candidate to be in front of a recruiter or a recruiter to find a good candidate. So it's really interesting to see the combination of these two, and Benjy certainly knows a thing or two about it. So
So there's a couple things here. And again, there's a lot of people on here that we got a lot of HR people, small business owners. They, some of them want to use more technology, want to get more involved. And I've been a big proponent of using video from a marketing standpoint of engagement, but, using it as part of the hiring and selection process. And it's already been used. I mean, people are using, Skype like we're doing today, or, Skype and Zoom, and there's certainly a lot of interview platforms out there as well. But just to share a couple stats with people about how popular video is. I saw this when I was posting something. This showed up at the top of my feed today. There's 1 million videos shared per second online. 1 million videos shared every second online, and 80% of all shared content that is consumed is video. That doesn't necessarily specifically relate to the video interviewing, but video is just becoming sort of that norm media that everybody's familiar with it. Everybody knows how to use it, and so again, makes perfect sense to be utilizing it more in the process, especially since we're hiring global. I mean, there's certain positions you have to hire local. If you're in nursing or you have a restaurant or a hotel, you have to hire you have to hire warm bodies. You have to have a body there. But there's a lot of jobs that just don't need that anymore. And I think as the more technology advances, that's going to change as well. So even I mentioned healthcare. I just read where they're talking about putting, especially for older populations, which I'm sort of moving into that, but older populations, very difficult to find CNAs and health aides and home health workers, but they're going to be able to put sensors in the walls, even like wallpaper or paint, and have sensors that will monitor someone's health, and that will be able to engage, either to prompt the individual or prompt a call to an emergency service, rather than, we just bought, for my mother and father-in-law, we just purchased fall detectors and GPS monitors. So when they're out there, but they're both in their 90s. But soon we won't even need those. I mean, it's going to be in the walls. But when you think about that, now you're going to have virtual workers that can monitor that, which means you don't have to hire healthcare workers down the street. And therefore, you can hire them anywhere from around the world, and video interviewing is going to become more popular. So I see nothing but a bright future for you, Benjy, out there, and that changes. And then, even in the U.S., we're a little bit far behind, and sometimes when it comes to internet, but 5G is really coming on board, which only is going to increase that ability and improve the quality of the latency and everything for the interviews. But we certainly can't ignore this. Because we've talked about the video, you basically introduced machine learning into that because you're capturing a whole lot of data. So we're talking about facial recognition, we're talking about natural language processing, which, by the way, is years ago when I entered the business world. This business world, the HR consulting business world, almost 25 years ago, the big thing was NLP, different NLP. That was neuro-linguistic programming. And at the time when they talked about how communication was 60% visual, 30% audio, tone and tonality, and only 10% words. And so that was why it was difficult in an email to, which is right. I mean, this is right up what your whole basis is. If you're submitting words and you remove 90% of the impact of the ability for us to truly understand what that person means, what's their tone, what's their facial expressions, what's their animation, what's their behavior, are they lying, are they just writing words down? To be able to add that visual and audio component back is huge. But it also then introduces a lot of bias. I can see your color, your ethnicity, your gender. Maybe you're not good in front of a camera, but you don't need to be good in front of a camera to program. So how is all this technology, where do you stand? I mean, what protections are in place? What concerns do you have, with using AI and, again, especially facial recognition, NLP behind it?
Yes.
There's a million questions there, I know.
There's a million
so
questions.
I put that there and you got 15 minutes.
There's so much depth to this topic, and to be honest, we're still at the real tip of the iceberg in terms of what's possible and what we're able to do with this technology. I will say that at MyInterview, we don't use any facial recognition technology or any emotion detection, etc. We played around with it in our testing, and we found that it wasn't where it should be yet to be implemented into the actual process for screening. So we've put that on the back burner. And at the moment we do NLP, so we do natural language processing, which is not that scary a topic. It's actually quite fair. If I speak in a particular way, the NLP basically takes my words and says, okay, what are these words similar to, so that I can, if I'm looking for keywords like you would in a resume screen, it would adjust my language and the way that I speak to those keywords and phrases. So it's just a learning of how people speak and how different words can mean the same thing in those screening processes. So
let me just stop you there for a second. But with that, are you not? Is there not an assessment part of that? I mean, are you evaluating what behaviors might be associated with those words? Is is this a new version of a psychometric assessment?
So yes, I'd say it's psychometric light. So what we're doing is we ask a question, and it might be a question around, and the answer we're trying to determine is whether someone prefers working in a team environment or is more of an individual worker. So we will take those words, what they're saying, and then we will interpret it to go either way. This candidate enjoys being in a team, therefore they will thrive in a collaborative environment, as opposed to someone who might answer an interview and they will and their language and their actual answer will state that they prefer to be very task orientated. They prefer to work in their own environment to get a task done and make sure it's perfectly planned, and that's the insight that we get, and that's what we can deliver.
How did you get to that? I mean, how did you get to that data? I mean, is it baseline? I know when other and again, I've been in the psychometric assessment business I've used them forever, but I've been in it for 25 years. So, I know a lot of times when they build a new assessment, they'll always compare it to another baseline, an established baseline. So you've got 300,000 people within your database, but how are you comparing their responses? What's it being compared to make it valid?
Sure. So we work with psychometric testing with behavioral psychologists when we put together our frameworks. And you're totally correct. It's built off the big 5 personality traits.
Cool.
So that's how we structure the interviews, and then we tag the various interviews within our databases based on those big 5 traits. But we also just structure the interviews in a very simple manner where you can answer a question and you deliver the question, and the way that you answer that question will determine whether you have a preference for this or that. So it's quite simple in the analysis that it delivers at the moment, and that's where we're really sitting, and that's where we're really confident in playing at the moment in terms of our machine learning capabilities.
That's fascinating because, I can go back and look at how, my world has evolved over 25 years. I mean, I've been using the DISC profile, for those who are familiar with it, or Myers-Briggs, same kind of the 4 style, basis. And I don't use that exclusively for hiring, but as far as team building and leadership and personal development and so forth. But there are words that each style uses, which is what the basis of what sounds like what you're doing as well. And it holds up. It's not perfect.
No.
Because people have different learning patterns in education, and we come, we're a global society now, but we do have our preferences, and it's amazing how accurate it is. And it's certainly better than, what we traditionally do now is, tell me what your best experience, your worst customer service experience, and we hire, people based on that, how they respond on that. So in addition to the quality of the answer or what the words are, we're able to evaluate the quality of those words and expressions.
Absolutely. And I'd also mention that the aim of this technology is not to replace humans. The aim of this technology is to aid humans in making their decisions. So if I watch someone's interview without looking at any of our insights, any of the data that we give, how do we feel, how do we assess that candidate? That will determine how we make our next decision. This is how we've been operating. Traditionally we do a phone screen where it's a one-on-one phone call, and then they come in face-to-face for a one-on-one screen. It's all very well, but we're looking at our gut feel, and maybe we're ticking some boxes on a sheet. But who's saying that we woke up on the wrong side of the bed, or something happened and then we jump on that phone call into that meeting, and now we're having a terrible impression of this candidate who could be fantastic. So when you have a standardized assessment, or at least some sort of data insight, it backs up your answer. So if you're saying this candidate is fantastic, I think they're going to be great in the role, it happens to line up with the data that the interview is giving you, fantastic, that's good. Or likewise, on the flip side, you could say this candidate is terrible, but their data kind of looks good. You can get a second opinion from someone else who maybe hasn't got those same preconceived ideas, and you can benchmark your decision making off that. So we're not making the decisions for anyone.
I think that's a really good point, because if you look at the way that it almost seems like risk aversion is the name of the game anymore. Recruiters, and they only want to make sure that they're passing along somebody to the manager that the manager is going to be happy with, and further down the process it goes. However, I think because it's hard to get that second opinion, or it sounds like using MyInterview, you're able to get that second opinion that much more efficiently without having to go through all of the time to get it. And that just helps build a better candidate experience, as well as getting employees into the right employees into the company.
Absolutely. And that's what it's about. It's about getting as much information as possible as you can in the shortest amount of time, in the most painless experience possible for both parties, and then coming up with a solution that everyone's happy with in the organization. So that's really our goal here.
Ira, did you hear that? Painless, lots of information.
Frictionless, yeah.
And short amount of time to do so.
Yeah.
How about it?
Sounds familiar. So Benjy, I published the book 2 years ago, Recruiting in the Age of Googlization. It's coming out. The second edition's it's actually in print, so either by the end of the month or next month it'll be out there. But one of the chapters I wrote, and again, I'm in the business, and I've said this years ago to my colleagues. I ended up focusing my business. I started this business 25 years ago. Somewhere about 22, 23 years ago, I decided I was just going to focus on the assessments. That's it. I don't do a lot of coaching and OD work. I basically do assessments. But I also saw the end, I was getting a little worried because I'd like to continue working, as long as I can. I enjoy what I'm doing. But I saw the current model of pre-employment testing changing. But one of the chapters in my book is technology making pre-employment testing obsolete. That's the title of it. And you sort of answered that question. I mean, so that was only 2 years ago that I wrote that. But what you're talking about today is this is a whole new way of taking that big five that's a standard assessment, and technologies. I think it's going to revolutionize that. And it's not that the assessment's going to go away, but the way we deliver it certainly is. I don't think people are going to be taking paper or digital tools and answering 100 questions and multiple choice or true and false and being hired.
Absolutely. We're too impatient as a society. If your website doesn't load within a second, you're closing off that page. It's just the nature of where we are. We're not going to be doing these long tests anymore.
Right.
Yeah. No, for sure.
And that's what I love about what you guys have over there, Benjy, because it's not just a video. I think too many people are moving so fast that they might miss it. They might have missed it. This is about analyzing and the ability to really recognize the facial expression that somebody's offering as it matches the words they're using and the sum total of everything, which is, like to Ira's point, super, super advanced. It seems super advanced.
So, I think the word, my word has always been convergence, that it is not necessarily, there's been video interviewing, certainly Zoom, Skype and a lot of other platforms have been around for, a number of years. So people have that access. But now when you start applying AI to it, analytics to it, NLP to it, all variations of it, AI, but, it changes the game. It really does. So, Benjy, I said this is going to move crazy fast, and as usual, I've got I got another hour and a half of questions for you. But we've got like 5 minutes left to do our wrap up, and we want to, make sure that people know how to reach you, how they can get access to your technology. So, spill the beans.
Fantastic. Thank you. So if you're interested, you can visit us at www.myinterview.com. We have, as I mentioned, a free account that you can use. It's free forever. And then the first real paid plan starts at $19 a month. So it's very accessible pricing. And we're there on live chat to speak to you. We're happy to do demos. And we look forward to hopefully answering any more questions that anyone has.
Yeah, amazing. And I know you can connect with you're on LinkedIn, so people can connect with you there. So I think it's under Benjamin, right? Gillman, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, under there, Gillman. So
correct.
Excellent. Final question. I don't know, maybe Keith has another one. So if we're talking to you next December 2020, hard to believe 2020, if we're talking to you next December, what are we going to be talking about? What HR technology or what disruptor are we going to be talking about other than how MyInterview took over the world? So
that's a really good question. Look, I think the trend is going to shorter applications. To be completely frank, I think that's what it's going to be. More one-click applications. It's also going to be flipping itself on its head. I think the recruitment industry as a whole, businesses are going to have to market themselves more to candidates than ever before. Mm-hmm. Not because there's any lack of candidates looking for jobs. I just think that the people are becoming more picky about the places that they apply for. So we're going to have to be doing a better job in attracting people to come work for us, and that involves also opening up our own companies. And the biggest promoters of our companies, our brands, are our current employees. So I think that's going to be a big trend coming in the future. Is job employment marketing, but coming from the current employees.
Yep. And for anybody who wants to follow that theme, my article on Rework, Cornerstone Rework, just came out, and I won't say what the acronym is, but the title of it is your candidate experience, and the acronym is FCDD. So if you want to, that's not what it means, but it actually stands for frustration, disappointment, confusion, frustration, confusion, disappointment, and distraction. So they're UX principles, and thanks to Debbie Levitt, who was also interviewed. She was she lives in Italy.
That's the one.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, Debbie, and she's that's her 4 horsemen of bad CX.
Benjy,
but there's a lot of that on that's in my article. I'll post that in there. I'll send it to you,
nice.
Benjy. So
Benjy, it's great catching up with you, dude.
Yeah,
congratulations on all the success.
Yeah,
thank you so much. Great to chat to you both. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, we'll definitely be in touch. I love what you're doing. Yeah. So Keith, there goes our 47th show. Another, no disappointment there. Another good one.
No.
So next week we got Craig Fisher coming up from Allegis. Another,
it's happy hour somewhere.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
Happy hour somewhere. Craig Fisher's going to be on.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that as well. So, hey, I want to thank everybody again. Googlization Nation, as we're calling it. We're always interested in hearing what's on your mind. Let us know how you're doing. If you're interested in becoming a guest or a sponsor, just send your thoughts our way. You can connect with link on our website, geeksgeezersgooglization.com. or just send myself, Ira Wolf, or Keith Campagna. Connect with us on LinkedIn and Twitter and wherever else we are. Don't forget to go up to Join Googlization Nation. You can do that simply by join.googlizationnation.com. What else? Oh, thanks again to our sponsors, Zor.ai and Success Performance Solutions. And don't forget, we'll be on next week, Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, w4cy.com. Or you can catch any of our podcasts on Spotify, Apple, Google, iHeart, SoundCloud, you name it, we're there. Until the next episode of Geeks, Geezers, and Googlization, this is Ira Wolf and Keith Campagna. Don't let the shift hit your plans.